If you're a first-time or younger buyer, then you probably can be a little more flexible, in which case you might want to consider purchasing multifamily and living in it. The first way you can buy multifamily is to just do it solo, where you're the only buyer. You live in one unit and you rent out the other 1, 2, or 3 units, and then that more money that you bring in as rent helps pay down your mortgage. Perfect. And depending on how you're set up and how many units you have, your entire mortgage payment might be made by your renters. Even more perfect. Things to consider though is you still have to qualify for the purchase price. You're not going to get full credit from your lender for the rent coming in. So if you have $3,000 worth of rent you're going to bring in off the rental units, the lender's not going to give you that much credit on what you qualify for every month. So you got to look into that. The other thing, of course, is you're going to be a landlord and you're going to live next to your tenants. And you have to make sure that that's something you're okay with. You can also use a property management company to do it for you, which you might find better because then you can kind of behave like another renter with your neighbors as opposed to monitoring them like you're the landlord. The second way you can buy and live in multifamily is to find one or more partners to go in on it with you. So you and another friend buy a duplex. You live in one unit, she lives in the other unit, and you both pay in toward the mortgage. Now you may not get as good of an advantage that way, but it should still be cheaper. Or the two of you buy a 3 or 4 unit, you each live in one unit, and then you rent out the other unit or two and apply that to the mortgage that you owe together. And you could do this with 2 of you, 3 of you, or 4 of you, again, if you want to look into a fourplex. Now the challenges here are as before, you're still landlords, but now you're landlords with co-employees, right? You need to decide a few things. One is what happens if any one of you decides that you want out? Do they get to sell their share to another person? Do you have to sell as well? Do you have the chance to buy them out first? That needs to be written down and signed because that can be a mess. Well, what if one of you isn't paying your share? You're not getting your portion of the mortgage paid on time. Well, what happens then? Or one of you won't contribute to maintenance costs. What happens then? It's easy to go into this as friends, family, whatnot, but you need to have a plan written and I'd argue signed to make sure that both parties can go to each other if there's a problem. The other thing to consider is, are all of the units equally nice and of equal value? If you and I buy a duplex, or let's say we buy a triplex, and you and I each live in our own unit, well, what if I'm living in the basement and you're living on the main floor? Do I pay a lower share of the mortgage even though we're 50-50? Or do we pay the same amount every month, but I get a little bit of bonus on the equity on the back end because I've been living in the basement while you've been living where there's sunshine coming through the windows? So there's more you have to consider with more people involved, but greater risk also offers greater reward. And each of these ways, going in with partners or going in solo, could allow you to get into the market, start building equity, maybe learn a little bit about investment real estate along the way, and move forward without maybe dealing with some of the challenges in the single family market that we see right now.